doing I'm Every Woman, Shaka Khan, No One, Alicia Keys, I Will Survive, Gloria Gaynor.
In the glittering world of soul music history, there existed a figure whose very name commanded both reverence and respect. Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul herself, wasn't just a powerhouse vocalist who defined an entire generation of music.
I really don't think about anything like that, and I haven't. I plan to be singing, so I just haven't thought of it.
She was also a fierce protector of her artistic territory who sparked legendary feuds throughout her iconic career. Welcome to another explosive episode of Offstage Tales, where today we're diving deep into the shocking world of Aretha and the 6 bands who reportedly got on the wrong side of the Queen. The Detroit legend behind timeless classics like Respect and Natural Woman was known for her uncompromising standards and fiery personality that apparently clashed with several major acts along the way. "I'm the Queen, and I don't take prisoners," Aretha once allegedly told Rolling Stone magazine during a heated interview in the 70s. "There's a real soul, and then there's everything else." That distinction, it seems, created plenty of musical enemies throughout her reign. From award show snubs to studio confrontations, Aretha's battles with these bands reveal not just personal vendettas, but deeper conflicts about authenticity, cultural appropriation, and what soul music should represent. So get ready for a wild journey through soul music's most bitter rivalries as we count down the 6 bands that made the Queen's blood boil. Trust us, these stories are juicier than any soap opera and twice as dramatic. But before we spill all this incredible tea, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell because you definitely don't want to miss what's coming next. 6. The Rolling Stones. Coming in at number 6 on our countdown is a name that might shock music purists: the Rolling Stones.
I don't need a reason.
Yes, the legendary British rock icons who helped define an entire generation reportedly had a deep-seated tension with the Queen of Soul that went far beyond professional rivalry. The conflict reportedly began during the height of the British invasion in the mid-1960s. According to music journalist Jerry Hershey, Aretha privately told close associates that the Stones were blues thieves who stumbled into fame, and that their appropriation of Black American music overshadowed what soul should truly represent.
No, with singers, it's a thing sometimes where you hear a great song.
The comments spread through Detroit's music circles faster than news of Aretha's latest chart-topping hit. What bothered Aretha wasn't just their success, but what it represented. While she was pouring her heart and lived experience into every note, the Stones were finding massive commercial success with what Aretha reportedly called borrowed authenticity that relied on copying Black artists rather than creating something genuinely their own. "There's singers and there's imitators," Aretha allegedly told Jet magazine in 1968 without naming names, but insiders claimed the comment was directed squarely at Mick Jagger and company. Some people confuse the two, but the audience always knows the difference. The rivalry reached its peak during a 1969 backstage encounter at a music industry event. Witnesses claim Aretha deliberately snubbed Jagger when he approached to compliment her performance, turning away and muttering something about real soul versus rock and roll cosplay. 5. The Supremes. At number 5, we have The Supremes, the glamorous Motown trio who reportedly viewed Aretha as a threat to their carefully crafted empire.
I've been crying 'cause I'm lonely.
The bad blood between these two powerhouses of soul music ran deeper than most fans ever realized. The conflict ignited during the mid-1960s when Aretha was making her explosive transition from gospel to soul while the Supremes were dominating the pop charts. According to Motown historian Nelson George, Diana Ross privately referred to Aretha as a church singer trying to play in the big leagues during a 1967 label meeting that was supposed to remain confidential.
Well, an expert I am not, Ed, but I do feel that this has been an exciting decade in the history of American music.
What infuriated the Supremes wasn't just Aretha's raw talent, but her growing reputation as the more authentic soul voice. While Ross and company were perfecting their polished pop-soul crossover formula, Aretha was earning critical acclaim with what Diana reportedly called that old-fashioned gospel shouting that sounds unprofessional. There's a difference between entertainment and just letting loose, Ross allegedly told Right On magazine in 1968. Without naming specific artists, but industry insiders knew she was taking shots at Aretha's more emotionally raw performances. Some singers need to learn the difference between a recording studio and a revival tent. The tension exploded at the 1968 Grammy Awards after-party where both acts were present. Witnesses claim Ross deliberately ignored Aretha when introduced, reportedly stating loud enough for others to hear, "I don't see why everyone's making such a fuss about basic church singing." The Queen never forgot being dismissed as just another gospel singer, and she apparently never forgave those who tried to diminish her artistry. Number 4 brings us to the Beatles, the Fab Four who reportedly harbored a complicated relationship with Aretha that went beyond typical musical rivalry. The world's biggest pop stars had some surprisingly dismissive opinions about the Queen of Soul that never made it into their cheerful press conferences. The tension reportedly began in the mid-1960s when both acts were dominating different sides of the Atlantic music scene. According to Beatles historian Mark Lewison, Paul McCartney once told a small group of journalists that Aretha was incredibly talented but too intense for mainstream audiences, and that her success proved raw emotion could only take you so far without proper pop sensibility.
Yeah, we'd sooner borrow them, it's cheaper. And we did a bit of water skiing, well, sort of. And
What bothered the Beatles wasn't just Aretha's vocal power, but what it represented for music's commercial future. While the band was perfecting their harmonious pop craftsmanship and studio innovations, Aretha was achieving critical acclaim with what John Lennon reportedly called gospel histrionics that make people uncomfortable at dinner parties. Great music should bring people together, not make them feel guilty about their problems, Lennon allegedly told Melody Maker in 1967, stopping just short of naming Aretha directly. Some singers mistake volume for emotion and pain for profundity. The rivalry reached its peak during the 1968 Cultural Revolution, when both acts represented different philosophies of music's social role. At a London recording industry gathering, witnesses claim McCartney politely but coolly dismissed suggestions that the Beatles collaborated with Aretha, reportedly telling a producer, "We're trying to spread love and joy, not remind everyone how hard life can be." Despite their massive influence on popular music, the Beatles camp never publicly embraced Aretha's more confrontational approach to social issues. Even decades later, when discussing influential vocalists, their interviews notably focused on smoother voices like Diana Ross and Dusty Springfield, rather than acknowledging the Queen's undeniable impact. 3. The Beeges. At number 3, we have the Beeges, the disco dynasty whose tension with Aretha reportedly stemmed from a deeply personal artistic betrayal that cut to the core of soul music's authenticity. The Australian brothers never forgot what they saw as the ultimate disrespect from the Queen of Soul during disco's golden age.
There is.
They cultivated
For
the
some,
look and everything.
Yes, yeah, for some it will be.
The conflict began in the late 1970s when the Beeges were riding high on their Saturday Night Fever success, while Aretha was struggling to adapt to the disco era. According to Rolling Stone contributor Dave Marsh, Barry Gibb approached Aretha's management about a potential collaboration for a disco soul crossover album, only to be dismissed without serious consideration. Barry took it personally, a former Atlantic Records executive told Billboard years later. He felt like Aretha looked down on disco as inferior music, and that drove the whole family absolutely crazy. What made matters worse was Aretha's reported comment to Soul Train magazine in 1979, "These disco producers are just taking our sound and adding a drum machine. Where's the heart? Where's the struggle?" Industry insiders knew the Beeges would hear about it. And they were right. The feud intensified when disco began dominating the charts and soul purists started choosing sides. Despite the Beeges' massive commercial success and undeniable vocal harmonies, Aretha reportedly told Jet magazine this was commercialized soul, and that certain pop opportunists were watering down black music for white audiences. The Queen never forgot what she saw as disco's appropriation of her musical heritage, and she apparently never forgave those who profited most from it. 2. Fleetwood Mac. Coming in at number 2 is Fleetwood Mac, the British-American rock dynasty who reportedly viewed Aretha as a threat to their carefully cultivated, sophisticated image. The rivalry between these two musical powerhouses ran deeper than most fans ever suspected. The bad blood began in the mid-1970s when both acts were competing for album chart dominance and critical respect. According to Rolling Stone contributor Cameron Crowe, Stevie Nicks privately referred to Aretha as too heavy for mainstream audiences, and believed Fleetwood Mac's polished harmonies were far superior to what she reportedly called gospel shouting that makes people uncomfortable.
I was watching one of her promos. The kids on the school bus were having a wild time with.
What infuriated the Mac was Aretha's continued critical acclaim, despite what they saw as less sophisticated musicianship. While Fleetwood Mac was crafting intricate pop rock arrangements and studio perfection, Aretha was earning reverence with what Lindsey Buckingham reportedly called raw emotionalism that lacks proper musical structure. There's passion in music, and then there's just overwhelming intensity, Nicks allegedly told a British music journalist in 1977, without naming names but clearly referencing Aretha's style. Some singers mistake volume for artistry and pain for profundity. The rivalry reached its peak during the late 1970s award season, when both acts were nominated in overlapping categories. Instead of finding mutual respect, the competition reportedly deepened their disdain. At a 1978 Grammy after-party, witnesses claim Nicks deliberately avoided being photographed with Aretha, allegedly stating to her publicist, "I won't be overshadowed by that kind of heavy energy." 1. Led Zeppelin. Taking the number 1 spot is the most shocking entry of all, Led Zeppelin, the British rock gods whose alleged dismissal of Aretha reportedly cut deeper than any professional rivalry. The tension between these musical titans made their rare public encounters feel like elaborate diplomatic missions. The conflict began in the late 1960s when both acts were ascending to legendary status through very different paths. According to former Atlantic Records executive Jerry Wexler, Robert Plant privately told associates that Aretha was too one-dimensional for rock audiences, and that her approach to blues was stuck in the church when it should be reaching for the cosmos. What made this feud particularly devastating was its cultural implications. While other conflicts on this list were professional rivalries, this struck at the heart of musical appropriation and respect. Aretha reportedly felt that Led Zeppelin had taken the blues foundation she helped build and turned it into what she called bombastic rock theater that forgot where it came from. There's paying homage to the blues, and then there's just talking without asking, Aretha allegedly told Ebony magazine in 1971, without naming names but clearly referencing Zeppelin's blues rock approach. Some people think volume equals soul, but the ancestors know the difference. Even decades later, when Led Zeppelin was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Aretha's congratulatory statement was notably absent from the ceremony materials. The ultimate betrayal, being dismissed by those who built their empire on your musical foundation. The Queen never forgot, and she apparently never forgave those who she felt had taken her culture's gift and claimed it as their own innovation. And there you have it, the 6 bands that reportedly made the Queen's blood boil. What do you think? Was Aretha justified in her legendary feuds? Drop your hottest takes in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe for more music drama. Remember, respect the Queen.